class. Today we are going to be digging into herbalism, and it is our Foundations of Herbalism Day, which I'm super excited about. Plants have definitely been my primary role model and guidance counselors here on Earth. So welcome to our next class, Foundations of Herbalism. Let's dig in. All right, guys, so as above, so below. Everything that is happening in the sky is automatically influencing that which is happening on the earth as well. And when it comes to herbalism and plants and using plants to heal our bodies, to nourish our bodies, and to take care of us, it's all about what's happening in the sky and understanding the movement of the ecliptic, right? The constellations, the sun, the moon, all of the things that we've been talking about. So it's really important when we study plants and we learn to live in alignment with plants and we become herbalists, which at the end of this course, we will all be able to recognize ourselves as working herbalists. It's really important for us to make sure that we are learning this in connection and in sync with the sky. And so that is what this course is all about. Astrology and herbalism for everyday life is going to make sure that you are living in alignment with the way that the sky influences and impacts the earth, and always keeping the two in our minds together. Because there's nothing that is happening above that is not impacting that which is happening below. And that is the foundation of herbalism. All right, I have a ton of information in today's class that I want to make sure that I get out to you all. So I want to let you know I do have some notes over here. I'm going to be using my notes to write on the right whiteboard, as well as looking over to my notes to make sure that I get everything out today, because this is a very foundational course. It is going to be a lot of lecture in today's course, and that's the beginning first half of the course. All lecture courses. So it's going to be heavy conversation today, a lot of whiteboard time as well. And then in the second course, half of the course, when we get into our application courses, I'll be actually teaching you hands-on how to use plants, how to use the knowledge that we get into our minds now, that we work into our psyche and into our being now, hands-on and in your daily life. But before we get to that point, we actually have to comprehend what's happening, the cycle that we're working in, and why and how the sky influences and impacts the things that are growing below. So that's what today's class is going to be all about. And I'm super excited, like I said, about talking about this, because it really is, plants was the beginning of my own personal journey. In my early 20s, I found myself deciding to step into vegetarianism and take that pathway. And it was through the interconnection of the food system, the globalized food system, and coming to learn that it really is the way in which we grow our food, not just plants, but also animal food. But it is the way in which we grow and produce our food that has been causing so many challenges on our earth. So it is plants and the way in which we produce our food system that inspired me initially to take this pathway in life. And so I have a lot of passion about plants, and I have a lot of passion about healing with plants. And so I welcome you to sit back, relax, enjoy this class. We are going to really cover quite a bit. Let's see. All right, so I want to write something here on the board for you today. And it's kind of a 7-step pathway that I see on Earth, the way from the sky all the way down to the beings on the Earth. And so we start here with the sky impacts and influences the Earth. From there, the Earth creates and influences the elemental interactions. And we talked about what the elements are in the ecliptic class. But again, the elements are, of course, fire, air, earth, and water. And so we have the sky and its natural cyclical movements influencing and impacting the earth and creating the seasons, creating the climate of the earth. The earth then creates its own elementals, the elements of the earth, the elemental interactions. From those elemental interactions, the ways in which fire, earth, air, and water interrelate, we then get the seasons. And from the seasons and the standard course of life, the way that life works out here on Earth, we then create life. Or life is birthed on Earth. I shouldn't say we create life, because we definitely don't create that. But the seasons then lead to life. It creates a planet or an environment on Earth that is actually sustainable for life. From life, then we start to interact together, right? Not only do the elements interact, but also life. And so from life, we create nourishing bonds, or actually, I've called it interdependent bonds. Interdependent bonds, and from that, we all nourish each other. And so a lot of what I talk about in astrology and herbalism for everyday life is going to continue to kind of sound like the same conversation that we're having over and over again. And you guys know why by now, because it's all about the circle of life and regeneration, right? So we grow up together and we fall down together as well and are regenerated through the earth. And so this is another one of those cycles, okay? We start with the sky, and as we've talked about, the pathway of the ecliptic and the pathway of the zodiac, or the circle, the 360-degree circle and functioning of the zodiac. We're going to be getting into houses and planets and more of those things in our next class as well. But we start with the sky and its cyclical, consistent patterns that continue to move day in, day out, no stopping, automatic, right? This is like the primary clock of our existence here is the sky. The sky then influences the earth. The way that ecliptic moves across the sky every year, that cycle of the ecliptic, as we know, is actually manifesting the seasons on the earth. And the seasons are created by the elemental interactions. And really, elemental interactions and seasons can be swapped. I kind of swapped the two of them together, or back and forth. But these two things are coming from the sky, influencing and working through, or working its energy onto the earth. It is the interaction between the sky, the earth, the seasons, and the elements that actually make the earth habitable for life. And so without these first four interactions, we wouldn't actually have an environment that we could survive here. We wouldn't have air to breathe. We wouldn't have an earth to grow food from. We wouldn't have, fire to heat us, to warm us, to help with that regeneration process. And we wouldn't have water, which is the foundation of life. As we know, water equals life. So without that, we have nothing. And then we have life. And then once we have life, it becomes this big conversation, right, of how life interacts together, which is really the primary focus for me when it comes to plant-based living. I'm also going to be using the term herbalism and plant-based living interchangeably a little bit. Let me give you a heads up on that. Herbalism specifically is a medicinal focus when it comes to living with plants and working with plants. But in a general sense, what using herbs and lining ourselves with the power of healing energy of plants is really plant-based living. And in this course, it's not going to be just about using plants for medicine. It also won't be just about using plants to nourish us, but it's going to be living in alignment with plants and bringing plants into our everyday life. So plant-based living and herbalism might be interchanged here throughout the course. I mostly mean the same thing though. Once we have life, now we have to start interacting together, because remember, the three primary foundations of any ecosystem on the earth is interdependence, which we have interdependence here on the board, diversity, and nourishment, right? So we're all very, very different beings on the earth, from animals to humans to plants to bugs to birds. All of us are extremely different from our physical body as well, from our energetic internal energy. And because of our difference, we are interdependent upon each other. We have to depend upon each other in order to be nourished, to heal, to grow, to interact, to even develop our mental state, our emotional state. I know that you might have seen different studies, and I can remember like ABC, News, 60 Minutes or something like that. Specials come on and show, that feral child who grew up around all dogs or in the middle of the forest, and the mental condition of that animal, of that being, of that human. Humans need other humans in order to develop mentally and emotionally and spiritually. We actually have to have those interactive bonds. We also have to have those interactive bonds with plants in order to nourish our body, and with other life in order to actually bring life into our bodies. So the interdependent bonds are created because the life on Earth is able to be sustained by the actual climate and environment of the Earth. Once life is here, it's going to start acting interdependently, and then we know we're going to nourish each other because of that as well. So this is kind of the foundation of how herbalism, or how the above and the below interact together. And actually, as I was planning this course out, I was going to call it As Above, So Below Astrology and Herbalism for Everyday Life, because the above and the below are one and the same. And it's really the way in which we want to go forward as being plant-based people or living in alignment with plants, is to always be making sure that we are also correlating and recognizing the correspondence and connection between the season and what is happening in the sky, and what season and what's happening on the earth during any decisions that we're making of what plants to use and when to use them and how to use them, which we will be digging into as we move on with this course. I'm going to go ahead and erase this guy here. All right, let me cap my pen too, because I ran out of ink the last time. Let me get back to my notes. All right, so what is herbalism? A little bit of a different definition than plant-based living. Herbalism specifically is the process of preserving the healing energy in plants. Preserving that energy and the actual physical body of the plant, and all of its, what we're going to talk about today, all of its amazing abilities to survive and thrive in this environment, right, is the foundation of herbalism. All right, so herbalism is the actual study of the plant life. So out of the interdependent bonds, out of the life that is sustained and grows on earth, herbalism is the study of the plant life and the ways in which the elements actually show up in the plants, the ways in which we can find the elements in the plants, and how those elements actually nourish different life. Now, we're going to talk more about making plant medicine, which is another part of herbalism, but herbalism is a large topic. It really is just zeroing in and studying how plants grow based on the seasons and based on the way in which the earth is doing its thing, and how the way that they grow in the environment that they grow in, under the particular pressures that they grow in, how those abilities that they grow, those survival skills that they develop within themselves, support life. Because it's not only humans that are fed and nourished and cleansed and healed by plants. It's also animals, insects use plants, everyone on earth, even other plants, right? The fungi in the earth. Everyone here is interdependent and even kind of dependent really on plants. All right, so particular plants grow at different times of the year based on this cycle of the earth. And this is going to be the foundational way that we look at herbalism and making plant medicine, is instead of having to know all of the particular names and specific details and data of each plant and how it works and what it does and what it has in it, because some herbalists and some teachers are going to give you that information. They're going to sit down and give you lists, glossary lists of, which I will be adding glossary lists into the class, but they're going to sit down and give you lists and lists of terms and names that you barely understand, that you have to memorize, Latin names, and all of the different big words that tell you what the plants do. But the way that I like to bring people into alignment with the earth and bring people into herbalism and welcome them and invite them into this lifestyle is to give us more real world connections that we can see ourselves. And so we can make assessments no matter where we're at on the earth, no matter what season we're in, and no matter what plants are around us. I do want to say, you definitely want to know what plants you are using and the safety of them and what their actual uses are. So being an herbalist does not mean just go out into the world and pick any plants at any time and use them any way that you want to. It definitely does come with knowledge and awareness. We will be talking about my top 50 plants in this class, and you will have a strong library of at least 50, and it'll end up being more than 50 over time, but at least 50 strong, solid plants that you can turn to and use that you know are safe and effective for just about anyone at any age. But I don't want to encourage you to go out into any forest on any part of the world and pick any plant and use it. But if you know the plant, or you have someone with you that can identify the plant and you know that it's a safe plant, you can actually look at the plant and experience and tune into its experience and tune into its environment and its own life cycle and figure out how it can actually support you. Because it is the way in which the sky interacts, the seasons that the sky creates, that impacts and influences and makes really the way that the plants develop on the earth. Because particular plants are going to grow at particular times of the year based on the season. So now we're getting back into connecting the above and the below with the astrological information. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is write down each of the astrology or the zodiac signs, the signs of the zodiac, and show you the levels of interconnection that they actually have with the plants. Because as above, so below, and what is happening in the sky is also happening on the earth. And I'm going to say this so many times throughout this course, you all. Repetition is the key to securing new knowledge. It's through repetition and repeating the same knowledge over and over again. And there's going to be a few things that you hear me say almost to the point you're like, my goodness, how many times is she going to tell us as above, so below, or the circle of life, or that life is regenerative? I'm going to say it until it becomes a part of your natural conversation. That is what this class is here to really create in you, is a mentality that allows you to walk through all aspects of life and recognize this natural regenerative circle, because there's no parts of what we're doing here where it's not available for us to see. All right, so let's check the notes. All right, so let me go ahead and write this chart down. I actually have some notes here to write down for you all to make sure I get everything down. All right, so we're going to start with Aries. I'm going to go ahead and just write all the signs first so we can see what space we have. Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Good, we're going to be able to fit all 12 here. Virgo, Libra. This plant isn't in the way. Dope. Scorpio. Sagittarius. Capricorn. Aquarius. And Pisces. All right, guys, so we talked about this when we wrote out the zodiac, right? We start from Aries, which represents the head, and we move all the way down to Pisces, which represents the feet. This is a way in which we can define and separate and equally define a 360-degree circle, right? So Aries being the beginning of the circle and Pisces being the end of the circle. So Aries is associated, let's see, so we're going to put body parts here. We're going to have body parts there. We are going to have the planet. We are going to have the element. And then we're also going to have the climate, the type of climate that is in the season. So I'm going to usually write climate. Aries starts at the head, okay? And so this is going to be the head and the face. And I'm going to come back through and talk about all of these positions at much more detail as we go forward in the class. But what we're going to do here is figure out our first way of thinking about what plants we would actually want to use for what issues, what needs, what particular, what plants we would need for what issues and what needs. This is going to be a very easy way that we can use our minds. This is almost going to be able to be memorized. This chart can almost be memorized because it's based on elements, seasons, and the circle of life, right? Or the zodiac circle of life. But this is going to be a basic chart that we can come to and we can reference to make sure we are picking the right plants, because there really are so many different plants that you can use to do so many different things. And having a guideline or guiding system to be able to find those plants without having to know all of the little bitty details and specifics makes our life much easier. So Aries represents the head and the face. The planet that is associated to Aries is Mars. The element that is associated to Aries is fire. And the climate that is associated to Aries is warm and moist. And so this is the beginning of the year, or the astrological year. It is the beginning of the new circle of life, right? We're just starting a circle and we're deciding to start at Aries, and we're going to call that the head, the beginning. Mars is the planet that is associated to action taking and to the beginning of things. And so that is the planet that is associated to Aries. It is also a fire element because Aries has the energy to start. And anything to start takes an internal fire. It takes fire to move forward. And so we have fire associated to the head, the face, hot-headedness. You might have even heard of that. A lot of people that have Aries moons or a lot of Aries energy in them actually tend to lose their hair early in life because of the fire and the Mars energy associated and concentrated in the head region. And during the season, so Aries is the beginning of spring, right? And so we're having the earth warm up slowly, and there's still a lot of moisture there because it's springtime. So actually the moisture has now been, the ice from the winter or the coldness from the winter has now started to be melt because the sun is coming back and warming things up, and it's a moist climate in the early spring. All right, so Taurus is neck and the throat. And I'm going to give you one or two body parts for each of the zodiacs right now. But I want you to know, just in a general sense, everything that I'm speaking about in class, it's not limited to just what I'm saying in class, right? So the Taurus also represents the voice and the vocal cords and many more things than just the neck and the throat. But I'm focusing you in, okay? So Taurus is this portion of our body. The planet that is associated to Taurus is Venus. The element that is associated to Taurus is Earth. And the climate is also warm and moist. So again, Taurus is the second portion of the circle of life. It has a lot to do with communication, but not necessarily like the Gemini, as we were talking about in our zodiac story, not necessarily Gemini of communicating, but the communication of what the throat does, the movement of the air in between and up and down, the movement of the food up and down, the movement of the things that we actually need to sustain our bodies is Taurus. Venus is the planet of relating, of family, of love, as we talked about in the zodiac classes. And so it's also associated to Taurus. Also the season, right? We're talking about a nice warm and moist season during this time. The earth, this is fixed earth energy. And on the earth during Taurus season, it is a beautiful time of year. A lot of abundance and plenty of interactions of love and different energies on the earth at that time interacting to create beautiful new life. All right, Gemini is the lungs, the arms, and the hands. And it's super important to recognize lungs, arms, and hands both have, it's dualistic, right? So Gemini is that dualistic, the dark and the light, the left and the right, the up and the down. It doesn't always have to be dark and light or negative and positive, but the two sides, the two polar sides. So Gemini is lungs, arms, and hands. Gemini is represented by the planet of Mercury. This is air element, the communication, remember, all about talking and sharing our voice. And we're still in the warm and moist time of the year because this is spring. And so the type of energy, the type of environment that the sky is creating at this time is warm, not too hot, and moist. It's not too dry during spring. April showers bring May flowers. All of the sun has returned a little bit each day and continues to melt and evaporate up that moisture and that water from the winter time, or that ice and that coldness, which is moving quite readily by Gemini season. And like we talked about in the zodiac series, there's not too much water by this time. So by this time, we're starting to actually dry up because we're coming into summer season. Cancer is associated to the chest, the breasts, and the stomach. And tummy, I put the tummy there. And the planet or the luminary that is associated to Cancer is the moon. Cancer is water. This is the first water element of the the zodiac of this spring starting, or the new year in the astrological year. The new astrological year, it's the first water element. And now we are in summertime. And so it's no longer warm and moist. Now we switch into a new type of a climate, which is hot and dry. And so during the springtime, we have plenty of moisture and we have plenty of mild heat, mild warmth. During that time, we're going to want to look for plants that are either drying, that actually are counter and opposite of the moisture, that are cooling plants, or look for plants that specifically support the head, the face, the foundation of the body, the mental stimulation, the beginning, our neck, our throat, or the lungs and arms, really this first top part of the body. This is going to be associated to plant medicine in the spring. This is going to be associated to the types of energies that we also need to focus on in the spring. So, and we'll talk about this throughout this class today, but you're either looking for plant medicine that is in alignment with the requirements, so looking for medicine for the head and the face, for the neck and the throat, or for the lungs and the arms, or you're looking for medicine that is actually going to counter it or balance it out. Again, giving the option of maybe a cooling medicine or something that's also drying. So by the time we get to summertime, we're now in the hot and dry. And so it's the same thing with summer. We can look to plants that are cooling and moistening, or we can also look to plants that are in alignment with that heat as well. So all of that's going to continue to be developed as we talk, but that's what the base of this chart is about, is giving you a few different ideas of the ways you can look to plants to fulfill your needs. All right, now we have Leo. Leo is in alignment with the heart, the spine, and the upper back. So still all of this top portion of the body. All right, Leo is also in correspondence to or is associated to the sun. This is definitely going to be a fire sign. Leo is the second fire sign in the zodiac wheel. Fixed fire. This is the sun. There's nothing going, what the sun does, the sun does. It rules the world. It rules the world. So it's fixed fire here. And this is also going to be hot and dry. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fill out the rest of the summer ones and a couple of the fall, and we'll come back out and talk a little bit more about those. All right, so I've gone ahead and added finished up the summer signs as well as added the fall. And so for Virgo represents the spleen, the gut, and also the digestive system. A lot of Virgos are connected to their stomach, maybe even have nervous stomachs. Virgos, as well as the sixth house is really concentrated on health, and we know that the foundation of our health starts in our gut and in our stomach. What's happening in our gut is going to set in place our entire body's health, or the health of the entire body. My goodness, my words. So it all starts in the gut, and this is the job of Virgo. Virgo is also represented by the planet of Mercury. This is an earth planet, although Mercury is associated to air. This is an earth sign. And during the last sign of the summer is hot and dry. We then move into fall. This is summer. This is fall. We then move into fall, and we have Libra, who is associated to the kidneys and also the butt. Libras tend to have pretty nice derrieres, really round lower portions of the body, and sometimes are also known to have kidney issues or focus on their kidneys, have to be very aware of the kidneys. The other dualistic sign as well, and the double sides. Libra is also associated to the solar plexus, which is the yellow portion of the chakra system, and has to do with our inner confidence and our inner knowingness and our ability to build and the value that we have in ourselves. This is our first time that we are now in fall season, and fall is associated to cool and moist. So we are getting the energy is cooling down, the sun is shifting away, right? And so the temperatures are dropping, but there's also the fall rains that come in. As we talked about, Scorpio season has to come in and bring in the waters that are actually going to help decompose last year's life. So we have cool and moist temperatures during the fall. Scorpio fixed water is associated to the genitals as well as the bowels. We know that Scorpio is associated to death and transformation. It's also associated to sex and to our sex organs and to the creation of the next generation. And is, well, because that is also transformation, right? When you decide to make a child, or that is going to be what takes place in your body, that is a transformation of the previous soul, or the two previous people's souls coming together to create a new soul. And so that's all associated to Scorpio. Scorpio's planet is Pluto, and it's a pretty powerful, expansive, transformative planet. It is also a water element, and it's also cool and moist. Sagittarius is the final sign during the fall. This is associated to our liver, the cleanser of our body, as well as our thighs, the parts of our body that we need to be able to run and travel and go explore. Sagittarius corresponds to the planet of Jupiter, the planet of expansion. This is the final fire sign of the zodiac, and cool and moist as well in terms of the climate during Sagittarius season, because we're getting ready to kick into Capricorn season. As we know, this is the last portion of the zodiac or of the year, and it's going to get cold and dry, the opposite of the summer here. So Capricorn is associated to the knees, the shins, and also the bones, right? We talked about in the zodiac, the Capricorn creating those bricks and those blocks. That is the foundation. That's the skeleton of the earth. And so Capricorn is bones, knees, and also even the skin as well. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of foundation, of structure. This is an earth sign. And by the time we get to winter, it is cold and dry. So in the winter months, if we're studying making plant medicine during these last 3 months of the year, either harvesting plants or using dried plants from earlier times of the year, we're probably going to want to focus in on the climate quite a bit. We might want to have warming herbs or moistening herbs, because it is pretty cold and dry during the winter time. Or herbs that also support our bones, our foundation, our structure, things like that. Our skin too, especially, you know, during that winter time, you get the really dry winter skin. It's because it's cold and dry. So if you bring herbs in that are moistening and warming, you're going to be able to improve your skin really instantly. Aquarius is the ankles and circulation. Let's see. It looks like air. Another really important need during the winter time is circulation. And so we know we want to have plants that are actually helping and stimulating the circulation, which would be something that would be really important to pay attention to during Aquarius season. Aquarius is represented by the planet Uranus or Uranus. This is an air sign, and we're still cold and dry. And Pisces is the last sign of this guy here, and is corresponding to the feet, or from the head to toes, right? The lymphatic system as well. Oh shoot, lymphatic system as well, the movement, right? So we see here at the end of the year in wintertime, it's really important for us to pay attention to keeping things moving, because things can slow down during the wintertime. The cold and dry energy makes things slow and more concentrated and falling down to the earth. So it's really important, if we're thinking about plant medicine or creating herbal remedies during this time of the year, that we remember it's really all about keeping things moving, the structure and the foundation, movement, and warming things up and moistening things up as well. Or again, the opposite. Sometimes in the wintertime, you also need plant medicine or herbal remedies that support the qualities of the winter, that actually are cold and dry, and maybe, not necessarily stop circulation, because that's not important, but maintain circulation and don't actually pump it up. It's going to be dependent upon the needs of the particular person or time of the year. But it's either going to be something that balances out the two or is in alignment with the seasons and the elements of that time of the year. Neptune is the planet of Pisces. We have water as the element and cold and dry. And so this is the breakdown of the way that the zodiac, the 12 equally divided portions of the 360 degree circle, are broken up and are work in a correspondence to our bodies, and even our energies and our minds as well, right? Because the head and the face is also where the brain is at. And so Aries energy is also associated to the brain and to mental activity and mental stimulation. And Pisces being also associated to the feet, not only the feet, but what do the feet do? The feet give us our entire foundation to be able to have our whole body off of, or our whole body can grow off of, or from. You guys know what I'm saying? And so it's really important that we not only look at our feet as, as just what we use to walk, but our foot health actually is going to affect our entire body health. I know that, I don't know if you guys have been a part of or heard of the barefoot revolution. If you haven't, I would totally recommend looking into barefoot shoes and tuning into it's literally a whole culture now of barefoot running and barefoot living. Because the health of our feet, if our feet aren't healthy, our entire body is going to be off whack. Our current day shoes are really narrow. If you look at, even I should have brought a shoe with me here, but if you look at, you go into most shoe stores and you look at the shoe, the top of the shoe is really narrow and closes off and kind of creates this, this shape here of our foot. When in reality, our feet are actually kind of wide at the top. Our toes actually splay out and spread out. And when you capture them in shoes that close off the toes and push the toes into improper or unnatural ways, you get all kinds of issues with alignment. Bunions, grow on the feet. The feet just get all messed up. And I actually have been recently treating some foot fungus because of this, because the feet, my patient's feet are so unhealthy from the shoes that they wear consistently that they just can't actually fight off this athlete's foot. So it's really, really important to recognize that this is a whole system, just like this is a whole year of climate interactions and shifts. This is the whole sky and the way in which it shifts throughout the year. And in order to heal one or pay attention to one, we have to literally look at the entire system together as an interdependent interaction. This is an ecosystem. And so everything here is working, everything is different. It all works interdependently and everything nourishes each other. Okay? I would say take a snapshot of that if you can. All right. All right, guys, one more quick diagram that I want to draw for you that gives you an idea of, again, how this interaction works together and associating it to the circle of life. See if I can get that perfect circle. That's getting closer. All right. I got to work on the lines, though, in the center. All right, guys, so up here, so this is another way in which we can break that long chart out, or that long, I guess that's a chart, into an easier graph. Let's see. So actually, let's do this. These are the symbols for the elements. Water and earth. So we have hot there, cold up top, wet and dry, summer, winter, spring and fall. So another way, or another quicker way that we can see the way that this is all coming together, right, guys? This is the circle of life. This is the zodiac wheel. This is the house systems, everything that we're going to be talking about. These are the symbols for the different elements, and you can tell they're very much interactive or correspond to each other. These top ones here too, or the fire and air, are both active and direct. And the earth and the water here on the bottom are both passive and receptive. And so this is kind of the foundation of the ways that the elements and the seasons work together every year to create all of the plants and all of the life on our earth that we have to use, or that we have to learn how to use to heal ourselves, nourish ourselves, cleanse for ourselves, cleanse our bodies, cleanse our areas, build our homes, everything. Everything we make is from all of the minerals or the materials from the earth. So the two top, fire and air, are both active and direct. Both fire and air are going to actually, move forward and take action. Fire, as we know, once it's started, it's going to spread and spark and continue to engulf and overtake whatever is in its path. The same with air. There's really no controlling air or fire, right? That's why together those two energies create no, that's not what I want to say. That's why together those two energies create what they do, right? Air and fire are very compatible energies to work together, because fire needs air to be created, and air actually can nourish and build fire to make it be a bigger fire. The two bottom portions of this graph, or of the elements, the more passive parts the two passive elements, are earth and water. Both earth and water are not direct. They don't go out and take action and make things happen. They are receptive and passive and sit back and receive. The earth receives the water, the earth receives the fire. The earth can pretty much just take whatever is given to it, as well as the water. Water, it molds and it shapes and it's mutable, and it'll take on any shape, but it will also take any dirt or anything that you put into the water will just receive it. It will cleanse it as well, but it is a receptive energy. And so this is, again, another way in which we can recognize how the elements work together. When we have hot and dry fire, we have the summer season. During the dry and cold, we have the winter. The hot and wet is the spring, and the cold and wet is the fall season. So go ahead and take a snapshot of that as well, so you can have this guy. Because it's really all about us getting into our mind the way in which everything on the earth works together, guys. This is the foundation of herbalism, plant-based living, astrology, hermetics, alchemy, all the big words that we're going to talk about in this class. This is the foundation of it. All right, let's go ahead and talk about a few more traits of the elements. We have talked about traits of the seasons, but we haven't really dug more into the elements. So we just mentioned that fire and air are both the active and direct action-taking energies or elements, and water and earth are both passive and receptive. But let's go ahead and write down a few more traits that are of the elements so that we can recognize this in plants, in people, in ourselves. Because the elements literally show up in all these different aspects of our lives. They're going to show up in the plants that we decide to use to make herbal medicine. They're going to show up in the interactions that we have as friends, family, co-workers, all of those things. So let me go ahead and write this out. All right, guys, so these are some of the traits of the elements. I wanted to go ahead and write these out so we can talk a little bit more about this, because this is another way actually to do zodiac and to do astrology as well. There are plenty of astrologers on the earth that don't even worry about digging into the particulars of each sign and just focus on the elemental traits of the signs. So let's start with fire. As we said, fire is the active principle, or one of the two active principles or elements. Fire is, as we know, it's fire. It is a direct active energy that moves forward. But there's other traits that are associated to fire that if we don't think about the actual physical fire burning, but what that fire does inside, or that feeling of excitement or that feeling of passion inside, that's when we start to find out the other traits of fire. So fire is youthful. Fire doesn't last forever, right? It's not something that's going to last forever. It does have a lifetime and a lifespan. And so it is it's a youthful energy because it's something that starts and it's not going to last. It's not going to survive and last the length of aging and wisdom like the earth will. So it's a youthful energy. It's very passionate, very forward and quick action. This is going to be like Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. Those 3 different signs are going to all be in alignment with this type of energy. There are also plants that are going to be in alignment with the fire element that are either going to support passion and excitement and high energy and are going to energize us and make us, be able to move quicker and faster, like ginseng or yerba mate. But then also plants, again, right, the counterbalance. This is also going to be looking at plants that actually help calm us and relax us and soothe us down, or maybe even cool us down. Like oat straw for the mind, a plant that helps relax you and reduce anxiety. Fire energy is naturally active and is going to go out there and find the things that it needs to find and consume them for itself, for its own growth, right? Like why fire signs, or maybe even Aries, that first sign tends to be associated to self-preservation or sometimes even selfishness or focused energy. It's because of their strong curiosity, the strong curiosity of that inner flame of fire, the desire to move out and to conquer and to find a new fuel to burn, new energy to burn. It's a burning energy within us, right? That's what I was saying. Not only are these elements found in the physical parts of the world, in the movement, in the actual fire, but if we think about what that fire feels like inside, right? What it feels like to feel excited, to feel passionate, to feel turned on within, that is the fire element in us. And we can actually find all of the elements, not only in the physical world, but also within our mental space, the way that we think, the way that we process, the way that we feel in our feelings. And so fire, curious, excited, and also destructive. Okay, I have a Sagittarius sun, and out of all 3 of my children, he is the one who wants to take things apart and wants to break things down. It's the natural fire energy in him, or fire element in him. The next element that we'll talk about is air. Well, there's only 4, so the next element is air. Air and fire are both the active elements. These are both working together actively and are actually very compatible with each other as well. Because air is also quick moving. We know the air, again, like if you're out on a windy day and that air comes or the wind smooths through you, it's going to touch every single part of your body and continue to move. It's a forever shifting, forever changing energy, the air. This is also associated to before I get to the inner, let me talk about persistent. The air is persistent. This is that active aspect of the element. It is persistent. It is forever doing what it needs to do and pushing forward its own energy. The air is never going to sit back and let you bring something to it. It is going to push forward and move its energy out. And so air is also associated to our mental space, our mental capacity, to our intellect, to our thoughts, to our mind, to the ways in which we think and push our ideas, our ideologies, our perspective, right? I have a perspective on earth. And from right here on earth, I'm able to see the things that I can see. It's my job then as a human or as a being to express the things that I see. And I'm going to use the air element to express, actually fire and air, to express what I see. It's going to be the passion and the excitement that fire creates within me to stimulate and create the mental ability and agility to push my thoughts out into the world, because my perspective matters just like every single one of our perspectives on the earth matter, because they're all coming from a different angle and experience with the elements. So air associated to intellect, It's methodical. Air does not, well, it seems like air does whatever it wants to do, right? Like if you don't understand the jet streams and the different seasons of wind patterns and how those things work, it seems like it's quite random. But we're living in the Sonoran Desert here. This is where this class is being filmed in the southwestern portion of the United States. And every single summer, I've been here, I think 9 summers total now, there is a monsoon season. And the monsoon season is extremely methodical and comes every single year from about June to September. We get this this wind system, or this actually wet wind system that comes in from the southern portion of this part of the world, from the Gulf, and brings in an actual, monsoon season. It's actually why the Sonoran Desert is the wettest desert on the planet, on the earth. It's because we have our winter rains, which most deserts get, and then we also have the monsoon season. Or most deserts either get just the winter rain or just monsoons. None of them get both but us, and that's why we are we're the wettest desert in the world. But it's because of the methodical energy and pathways of the winds. Every year, the winds do the same things on this part of the world and bring this season up to us, or this weather system up to us. We don't always have as powerful monsoons, and we don't always have as many sandstorms called haboobs, or the rains, but it is going to happen every year because the wind is actually set on a scheduled cyclical cycle, just like everything on Earth. The wind is detached. A lot of times when we talk about the airy signs of the zodiac, we're going to talk about emotional detachment, and like an attachment from emotions, an attachment from feelings, and a detachment from a lot of things. Well, where's the air? The air is not here on Earth. The air is moving around free to do its own thing, its own cycle, and is quite detached actually from what's happening on Earth. It just comes in, does its thing, and keeps moving along. Remember, we were talking about Libra season and how Libra actually needs to be detached so it can come in and remove those leaves off of the trees without a worry about the life that it's affecting. Air energy is also very social. This is what I'm using here. It's going to be all about the way in which I share and socialize and move my thoughts and energy around. Our next element is earth, and earth is, well, we know what earth is. This is stable. This is the epitome of stability. If you don't believe in the stability of the earth, go outside and go stand on the earth. Go outside and go look at the natural abundance that is growing literally everywhere on the earth, and tune in to the stability, the true stability of Mother Earth. This is the primary trait of earth. This is also, now we're getting to the passive energies again. And so earth is not moving like air or fire, right? Earth is sitting and waiting for seeds to be planted, for the water to come and carve it. Earth is passive and it's receptive. It's stable. It's not out there making changes and moving and forever shifting and making things different like the air is and like fire is. Earth is wise. The earth has been here for a long time. It is the wisdom of time. Like we talked about in the zodiac story, the earth is built by layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of life year after year. That's wisdom. That's life that existed on this earth before, that has now died back and given its energy and its information back to the earth. And the earth brings it all in and holds it all in and grows up wiser than it started. The earth is tough. It's built tough. It's built to last. The earth is regenerative. The earth, along with the sun and the sky, the above and the below, are constantly regenerating and are never taking actually a break on its regenerative cycle, because it's stable and it's wise, and it's also dependable. The earth is dependable. You're never going to wake up one day and walk outside and not find the earth. It's always going to be there for you. And because of that, it's secure. Earth energy is security. So we're talking about the earth, but let's bring this energy and this idea into ourselves. How is the element in me? How can we see this in ourselves and even in the plants? Well, earth is associated to the things that matter the most to you, the things that are foundational to your life, the most important things. Security, the financial security, good food, right? The things that make you feel whole and safe, that's going to be associated to earth inside. And even the qualities and traits that you share with other people that bring and offer these types of traits or offer these types of energies to people, that's the earth in you. Friendship is very earth energy. It's very much associated to security and stability and regenerative energy, you know. Friendships come and go throughout the years, but those real friends, they stay friends with you throughout your whole life. And no matter what different pathways you all take and what different experiences you have, you know that you can come back together and talk based on that secure, long-term wisdom growing. All right, so the earth is slow moving. These are going to be the slower habits that we have within ourselves. Some folks who have a lot of earth energy in them just tend to actually walk slower, think slower, move slower. The earth tends to be associated to home. Earth energies tend to be homebodies, like to stay close to home, are not as interested in being active and direct and out there moving in the world. And the earth is life growing, life sustaining. Give thanks, give thanks, give thanks. The earth is actually growing the life that we use here to sustain. And so in a general sense, earth energy is going to be associated to providing the things that we need to survive. The security, the foundations, the things that we need to be able to keep moving through our own circle of life. The fourth and last element is water element, and also a passive element. Again, something that is receptive and is going to receive. As we know, whatever you put in water, water is going to take on. You can put a color in water, you can put dirt in water, you can put even air into water, and the water will take on that which you give to it. And so water is passive and likes to, or is associated to the things that receive, which is our emotional body, our inner feeling experience. The parts of us that are also receptive and open to bringing new things in. It's our emotional body. Water is mutable. It is always changing. No matter what you put water into, it will take the shape and the form of that thing. Air is very similar to that also. It's quite mutable and changing. Fire is as well, but water has a special ability no matter where you put water and whatever form water is in, right? Either as a gas, as a liquid, or a solid state. Obviously, as it is freezing into solid, it will freeze wherever it can. Once it's frozen, it's stuck there. But it's going to fill the spaces in the caverns and fill into wherever there is space for it to be, and it will occupy that space. And that's water. Water is unstable, whereas you can put something onto the earth. If you put something onto water, and if you're not one of those little bitty mosquito bugs that have extremely balanced surface area on your legs that are able to stand on top of water, or if you're not working like, walking on water like the wise sage energy and knowledge of Jesus to be able to walk on top of water, the perturbations of life. Water is unstable. You can't put too many things on top of water unless it's in its frozen state, but even then it's still unstable, right? Water is always changing. So even if it is frozen, it's actually going to be melting and changing back into another state as soon as the environment allows it. So it's an unstable property. And it's also, when we look at water being associated to emotions, as a very high water person, I'm very much watery. I've had to learn as I've grown and as more of my earth, as the longer I've literally been on the earth and my own personal wisdom has developed, I have had to learn that the instability or the destability of my feelings and my emotions, I can't let my emotions run my life because emotions are associated to the water element. This is the part of us that is very changeable, I had a friend many years ago tell me one of the most wisest things I've ever been told by another human is that feelings are fleeting. Feelings change quickly. In a moment, you can have a totally different feeling about the exact same situation. And that is the water element within us. Water is cleansing and is regenerative. Whatever you put into water, it will ultimately cleanse and provide you a brand new opportunity for that exact same experience or material to be used again. But after it's been through the water, it will be cleansed and washed clear of its impurities. Water is fluid. It's not going to get too stuck up on any one position. Even as ice, it will melt back into its liquid form or even be evaporated off as well, depending on the fire source around it. Without water, we have nothing, we have no life. And it's really actually quite an important element to pay attention to when we are making plant medicine, because the type of menstruum or liquid base that we use to make our plant medicine really matters. And water is one that is not going to allow us to preserve anything for too long. You can't preserve in water for too long without adding some additional stabilizers to it, because water is going to birth life. And when it comes to plant medicine, you will have mold grow. So that will be an element that we're talking quite a bit about when we're making plant medicine. Water is also in alignment with the intuitive energy or the emotional body, the things that we can't necessarily see, but that we know that are there. And so this is a deeper breakdown of the 4 elements. You can use these descriptions, these traits, to tune into what plant medicine to use, what plants to eat, what portions of the world or the earth or of your country that is more in alignment with you. There are different parts of the world that are in more alignment with air, fire, earth, and water. And when you know your own constitutions and you know the primary elements that navigate you or that inspire you or that you tend to lean towards, that you tend to express yourself through, you can find not only where you want to live, but the type of people you want to live around, the type of food you want to eat, the type of activities that you want to do, all through being aware and living in alignment of the elements. Because we can find this at all levels, from above down to the below. So let me go ahead and clear this board off and we'll get to the next. All right, so when it comes to making plant medicine and living in alignment with plants, we have to realize that plants are made to survive on Earth. So these elements that we just broke down and the many different ways in which they interact with the seasons and create climates and co-create, the entire existence that we live here on Earth. We have to, what was I just saying? Adapt, yeah. We have to realize that plants are living in alignment every single day with these elements. Imagine being a plant living outside and you don't have feet that you can just put down onto the earth and walk away because the sun gets too bright or the temperatures get too cold or for whatever reasons, you actually can't just get up and leave. And so plants are known as adaptogens because they have the most stellar ability to adapt to any environment. And they do this through many different ways, but plants adapt primarily to the environment through, I think I've heard some plants have over 300,000 different types of chemical combinations that they can create at a drop of a dime that allows their body to adjust to the environment and continue to survive and even thrive no matter what these elements are doing. So I guess there's nothing here anymore that I'm pointing to, right? But you guys remember what was up there. It's all about adapting to the changes of life, adapting to the seasons, adapting to these elements, because they are not going away. They are not going to be changing either in terms of the way that our earth is worked out and how it's been working and functioning for, I don't know, since the beginning of time perhaps. And so when we are beginning to put our minds into the awareness of herbalism and herbalists and beginning to define ourselves as an herbalist, we have to look at things in a particular light. And we have to look at the plants as almost just like us, I hear a lot of conversation from folks who say that plants are not sentient beings, that plants are not, they don't feel, that they don't have all of these things that the elements have actually can confirm to you that plants do experience. Now, I personally have had multiple really deep experiences of plant communication. This is because the foundation of life on this earth is based in communication. Really, everything that we've talked about so far in class is how things are communicating together. Either the ways in which we see something and communicate that which we see, or the ways in which different elements or seasons or we haven't gotten to planets, but different things communicate with each other, how we relate. Interdependence is based on how the two entities or two beings or more communicate their relationship. And that is what plants do as well. Plants are high-level communicators and are consistently putting out vibrations and frequency that with the right equipment, we can actually pick up on. Have you all seen, I don't even remember the DJ's name now, but there's a brother out in the world that is actually making beats from plants. He has his beat machine plugged into plants, and the beat machine can read the radio frequencies and the wavelengths that the plants are putting off. Because as we talked about in the first class, the rainbow salad class, the foundations of rainbow salad, plants are literally giving off an electrical current. They, even though have been picked from their plant, they hold within them a frequency of life that is electric. It is also magnetic or electromagnetic, but it is electric. And it is that electric energy that we use to feed and fuel our own electric energy. We are electric beings. And so we have to take in electric food to be nourished, to be balanced, to be recharged, to be regenerated. It's all about communication. And we do this through our sensory system. So I'm not sure why folks think that plants don't also do this, but to each his own. I want to invite you to experience plants in a new way because I literally can hear plants talk. They literally are communicating with us all the time. And I used to be scared to tell people this, but I can. You know, I've had plants give me warnings about things that were coming. I've had plants tell me that they were being eaten alive, and I was able to come and find the plant being eaten alive by bugs in my dream state. Plants are sensory beings, and just like I am a sensory being, both this plant and I are emitting an electrical frequency outside of our body. And when I live in alignment and in tune with how similar this plant is to me, the plant and I begin to create a bond. We begin to create an interdependent relationship that's not based on me eating the plant. Many times folks think that you can only have a physical relationship with the plant, like plants are made to eat. That's what they do. But do we also know that plants are made to love? That plants are made to care and to emote? Plants actually feel pain. Plants feel relationships and bonds. Plants recognize their friends. They recognize their family. This is what the garden, this is how the forest has been surviving for eons, guys. There are trees in the big forests of the world, the big oldest trees, the wise trees, the trees that are very earth in their elemental nature, the wise ones. They share nutrients, oxygen, water, everything that the whole community needs under the earth through their root system. They're actually caretakers. They call them nursery trees. And these caretaking nursery trees are recognizing, wow, so we grow up really, really tall and we're blocking out most of the sunlight. But we have babies growing down on the forest floor. And guess what? We know what they need. They need the energy of the sun in order to grow. So those trees literally feed the baby trees underneath the earth what they need, the energy from the sun that the big trees are absorbing in. So plants, and especially trees, but all plants, are not just about the physical. They are sensory beings just like you and me, and they are sharing consistently their frequency out into the world. And when you start to shift your mind and think of them as extremely similar beings as you are, and you show them that respect. You know, when I walk past a plant, if I'm paying attention, I always greet the plant and say hello to the plant, just like I do to all of my brethren on the earth. If I run into a brethren or a sister on the earth, I say hello to them, I greet them. Not because we have to be friends forever, but because I see you and I recognize the life in you. And I have, a heart and a soul that sees the life and the soul in you. And so I greet you and I say hello. It's the same thing with plants. They might not have a heart here in the center of their body that's pumping out blood, but they sure do have an extremely intense and complex root system that is literally pumping out blood, their blood up into their body, out into the earth. They're just so amazing. And we'll be talking more and more about plants and how we can get our minds in alignment with them. Because when I do not respect this being as a sensory, feeling, sentient being, I am disrespecting the primary aspect, foundation of life. and in a sense disrespecting myself and disrespecting the intimate, conscious, required relationship between plants and life. And this is the herbalism that I introduce to the world, and the way in which I share my plant knowledge and my plant love as the world is tune into the ways in which the plants are living with the seasons, with the elements, with the natural parts of life, and get in alignment with that. Use them, work with them with that type of an awareness. Because all of the elements are in the plants as well. And so that water element of emotions and intuition is in the plants. That fire element of passion and excitement is in the plants. That earth element of stability and security is in the plants. And that air element of intellect is in the plants. All beings on the earth actually are sensory beings. I think that I mentioned a little bit about bugs because I love to talk about moths. Insects are some of my favorite beings on the earth. But bugs, birds, plants, humans, dogs, cats, bears, we all are sensory beings. Our body is a large sensory organ. And oftentimes they only tell us about the 5 primary senses, right? Sight, sound, smell, touch, and what's the other one? Sight, smell, sound, touch, taste. Forgot about the basic 5. They kind of only teach us about those 5 as humans, but it's quite limiting to only learn about those 5 sensory systems in our body, because there are so many more. We can sense light, we can sense pain, we can sense air pressure, we can sense water pressure. Insects are amazing sensory beings. Some of the most delicate sensory beings and the smallest ones on the earth are the insects. Ants can tell 12 hours in advance when the water pressure has changed and that a storm is coming in, and they actually, for the next 12 hours, as soon as they sense the water pressure in the air shifting, they build the entry of their ant hill or their ant colony up, so that when the waters come and the rains come, they don't actually flood into their house. Moths use the UV light of the stars to navigate at night. Beetles do this as well. Yes, the starlight, the light from the stars actually is reaching our earth and is touching all the way down to the most smallest insects. And they use this to navigate. It's because it's all about communication on earth. And it's all about interdependent bonds. Remember, we have that up here, from earth to sky. It's to create the interdependent bonds. And so that we can communicate and we can relate. Because honestly, guys, that's what life is all about, is being here, relating with each other, growing up, dying back, and keeping the cycle going over and over again. And plants keep us living in a very, very fine awareness of this. Which is the goal of my class, is to get you all consciously every day living in a fine-tuned awareness of not only how these elements, seasons, and cycle of regenerations are in you, but are also in everything that you need to do. Let's see. So, herbal medicine. We've talked about the foundations of herbal medicine, but what is herbal medicine? So we have these plants out here growing with all their adaptive abilities. They're able to, throw in 200 different chemicals together and make, some type of a response because they're being overgrazed by a particular animal, and put out a new type of pheromone that sends that animal or pushes that animal away. They have these abilities at the drop of a dime to create a new chemical combination to protect themselves. Let's say in the summertime, plants actually create different chemicals. One is known as lycopene, that come together to make that bright red in the summer fruits. And that bright red actually protects them from the sun. Lycopene is also known to naturally support our own UV protection in our skin. I think it was a study done some years ago that if you eat 1/4 of a cup of tomato paste every day for 6 months straight, you will have at least a 30% increase of natural UV protection in your skin. Because tomato paste has a high concentration of the good red stuff that tomatoes make and use to protect themselves from the sun. So plants are out here all day long, every day, making everything that they need to survive and thrive in the environment. life, humans, life, animals, we want insects as well. We want to use and borrow and intake those qualities that the plants are using to survive in the environment, to survive in our environment. And so herbalism or plant medicine is all about finding ways to preserve that power in ways that we can use for the long term. Because we were just talking about water, right? And water is life. Well, we talked about this in the rainbow class. If you've ever made a soup, you're an herbalist. If you've ever made a tea, you're an herbalist. You don't know it yet. You don't know what herbalism is, perhaps. You don't have the foundations to be able to go out confidently and talk about it in the world, but you are actually a practicing herbalist if you've made tea or soup. The reason is because you've taken powerful, potent plants and infused them into water, either as your soup or your tea. The challenge with that is that that water has a lifespan, right? Well, it's going to grow life. So if we make our plant medicine, our herbal medicine in water, it has a shelf life. We have to consume it pretty quickly. Usually you make your herbal tea and you have to drink it right away or within a couple of days. But what if we could take that tea and put that into a liquid that will preserve it, that will not allow water or life to grow, mold to grow, preserves it so we can use it for the long run? Welcome to herbalism or plant medicine. Or herbal medicine. We can call it many different names, and I'll probably interchange between the three. But this is what plant medicine is, guys. It is our way of harvesting plants that have particular elemental, seasonal, traits that we need, that we want to consume or use, and preserving them in some type of a menstruum, which is a liquid base, or other ways to be used later. Some of my favorite ways that I wanted to just list off, different ways that we can make plant medicine. So let's see. All right, so there are many different ways that we can actually preserve the plants. Let's go ahead and write out my top favorites. If you have any that you would like to add to this, leave a comment in this class so we can know a different way that you make plant medicine. But these are some of my favorites. All right, so we have tinctures. A tincture is a concentrated plant medicine, and actually, just so y'all know, we're going to be making all of these different types of plant medicines in class in the second half of this course. But a tincture, that's going to be a concentrated type of plant medicine, something that we are going to be probably using like an alcohol, a grain alcohol, or some type of plant-based alcohol or a vinegar to extract out the goodness of the plant in a concentrated form into a tincture. We have infusions. So infusion is going to be kind of like a tea or something where we actually have allowed the plants, very similar to tincture, but not as concentrated. A tincture is something that you allow to set and to concentrate over a long amount of time. An infusion is something that you can make really quickly. An infusion could be taking your lemons and infusing them into your vinegar, or even taking lemons and infusing it into your tea. Again, much better and detailed descriptions of these, but I want to just give you really quickly the ideas. Tea, so this is kind of like tea as well, infusion. Let's see, capsules. And so I'll actually show you how to make your own multivitamin today with pure plants, or not today, but in the second portion of class. We have baths. One of my most favorite ways to do plant medicine. We have oils. We have ferments. We have calcination. We also have decoction. And I'm going to go ahead and put soup here too, because everybody's made a soup. I shouldn't say everybody, but most people have made a soup and a tea. Herbal baths, oh my gosh. Again, much more detail, I'll be talking to you about this, but you can literally take your tea and soak in it. And it's extremely healing. Oils, essential oils, or the oils of plants. We're going to talk here in a few minutes about the immortal aspects of life, and oil is one of those. But the oils of plants are literally in relation to the immune system of the plant. And so very, very potent healing energy in the essential oils, or the oils of the plant. Ferments. Ferments are like vinegar, alcohol, anything that has fermented and has created an alcoholic base in its chemical interaction is a fermented. something that we're going to use to make tinctures in normally as a fermented menstruum. Calcination is the burning of plant material and is going to actually allow us to find just the minerals, just the salts, which are the building blocks of life and are extremely healing. More again on that. A decoction is something similar to an infusion, but it's something that you're going to cook for much longer. So a decoction usually is something like a tea that you make, but instead of cooking the tea for only maybe 10 minutes to 15, you're going to cook it maybe for 25 to 30 minutes. It's going to be a very concentrated and rich, cook on the tea, and it's going to be much more potent medicine. Also, it's going to taste really strong too. And then soup too, had to add that as well. Like I said, we're actually going to be making all of these different types of plant medicines in class. But just to give you an idea, there are tons of different ways that we can preserve the healing power of plants for later use. It does not have to be just eaten fresh. And although fresh tends to be best, sometimes dried and preserved plants are just as potent, if not even more potent. All right, so the last couple, maybe it was the last, but a few of those ways to make plant medicines, a few of the different ways that I showed you guys to make plant medicines are really, really important topics when we're talking about alchemy. And a portion of this class and a portion of all of the studies that you're going to be taking out of this class, there's definitely going to be alchemical studies. I am definitely a practicing alchemist and a growing, learning alchemist, I would say, practicing in developing my skill. But I want to teach you and invite you all into the real levels and the reality of what alchemy really is. Oftentimes we hear the word alchemy and we associate it to a couple different things. Oftentimes people think that alchemy only means turning lead to gold. And while there is quite a history in regards to turning lead to gold or turning things into gold, maybe that is an inner lead, an inner darkness into the lighter, more sovereign being of gold, or actual physical materials, which I haven't personally witnessed, but have read many books that proclaim that ancient or traditional alchemists did actually have a method from converting lead into gold. But alchemy is way more than that, and it actually has its foundations in the laboratory. I will definitely be showing you my own alchemical laboratory here in this class in the future, but alchemy actually started in the laboratory and has a much deeper tradition rooted in the circle of life and the cycle of water and the cycle of things here on earth than it does than it has in regards to turning lead into gold. That is an important aspect of alchemy, especially when we're talking about transmutating our own inner being, but this is not the foundation of alchemy from my research and my experience. It's actually happening in the environment. So what is alchemy? Alchemy is the study of how life is born, how it grows and matures, how it reproduces, how it then dies back and gives its life back to the earth. So alchemy is the study of the circle of life, of all of the things that we've been talking about. Alchemy is the study of the zodiac. Alchemy is the study of herbal medicine. Alchemy is the study of healing and of regeneration. It is the study of how things are working on our earth and where we fit in that cycle. And again, the foundation of what we're doing here together, guys, is getting our minds to consistently thinking in this same cyclical pattern, because it's happening anyways. But if we're not consciously aware of where our thoughts are at in the cycle of thing, of where our energy is at in alignment with the energies that are around us, we're kind of like walking around like, what do they say, chickens with their heads cut off? We're missing out on so many additional layers of experience and of existence here, of opportunities for healing and growth and maturation and wisdom. And so alchemy helps us so alchemy redirects us to this life cycle and helps us study it very consciously and with very high levels of detail and precision. Alchemy is a precise study and a precise science. And we'll be talking more about herbal alchemy here in class and in the ways in which this science is so precise. But today I want to make sure that we go over the 3 immortal aspects of life per alchemy. And of course, here we are with the number 3, the Holy Trinity, left, right, and the neutral center. So this is the 3 immortal aspects from the alchemical perspective. And it's all about really the same thing, the 3 things that need to come together in order to create a new level of existence. All right, so what alchemy is the study of alchemy is to reduce things down to find out the actual foundation of them. And so that's why alchemy is not just about turning lead to gold, right? Alchemy is a scientific and laboratory study of reductionism and is really the foundation of our modern scientific world is reductionism. The goal of modern science is to break life down to the singularity, to find out where everything came from. And while there are ways in which we can reduce life down and figure out the foundational aspects of life, the challenge with modern science is it doesn't actually take into account the soul or the spirit or the energetic experience of life. And so modern science, while it has brought us so many luxuries and medical advancements and has extended life, well beyond our ancestors, at least from what, recent times is what we know, it's been absolutely amazing what modern science has done, has taken our vision beyond what we can see. It's also missing the nous is actually what it's called in alchemy. The soul, the spirit, the energetic force behind the creation. We are a physical living existence here. We are matter, but there is an energetic experience behind the matter, or that manifests the matter, that actually creates this physical life. And modern science just does not consider that at all. And so reductionism actually used to be something that I used to kind of move away from and turn my head from, because I struggled with supporting a science that did not also honor the physical or the energetic spiritual being that I know that I am. When I found alchemical laboratory alchemy, I was almost reborn into a new love of reductionism, science, and a new level of respect. And it has a lot to do with the 3 immortal aspects of life. Because when we do reduce plants or any life down to through fire, when we reduce it down through destruction, we do find some aspects of life that maintain no matter what. And these are actually the primary healers that I use in my life. These are the things that I was turning to before I even knew what alchemy was, to heal my children and heal myself. These 3 immortal aspects of life are, we'll just put oil, but this is going to be like essential oils. And just the oil in general of a being. This is also, well, we'll come back there. We have alcohol. And we have minerals. The 3 immortal aspects of life are oils, alcohols, and minerals. And every single living piece of living earth, or living life that has come from earth, or living life that is living on earth, when reduced down, will produce an oil, an alcohol, and a mineral. And even gold. Now, I have not personally worked with gold. I have to go off of the studies of other alchemists and other alchemists, texts that they have shared. But even gold has an oil. You can actually use a different chemical and interact it with gold, and an oil will be produced. So every single life, living being, living creature, as well as the minerals of the earth, will produce all 3 of these things, and they do it through reductionism. This is a laboratory study of recreating the circle of life in the laboratory. And that is what alchemy is about, right? That's what we talked about. Alchemy wants to know how and why life is born, lives, grows, reproduces, and then dies back down and regenerates itself and gives itself back for the next cycle of life. It is a scientific laboratory study of that. So when we take, let's say, we won't take that plant because that plant is alive. When we take any plant into the laboratory, let's say we take lavender into the laboratory, and we want to understand the life cycle of lavender. I was going to say labradorite, which is a mineral, but we want to understand the life cycle of lavender, the plant of lavender. And we can watch it, right? We can watch lavender grow up from a seed and watch that cycle of the zodiac take place. But what is happening behind the scenes? What is the plant doing itself that it uses or that it has to create that cycle, and that is immortal in the sense that is indestructible? What cannot be destroyed in that plant, and that will be used for regeneration for the next cycle? Because we know it's about regeneration, and so there's certain aspects of life that are going to be used to continue to create new life for the regenerative process. What alchemical laboratory scientists have found is that it is the oils, the alcohols, and the minerals. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how these three things are found, and then we'll go into a little bit more depth about all three of them. So we're going to take lavender, and we're going to take this plant, we're going to pick the plant and bring it into the laboratory to study it. We're going to be reducing the plant down through fire, because fire is the truth. We were talking about that element fire. It is a destructive element, and it's really the only element on the earth that destroys the way that it does, right? Air can be extremely destructive, water can be extremely destructive, as well as earth too. But fire does it in a way that no one else can do it, right? Fire comes through with an intention to burn down and destroy anything in its path. And not necessarily to destroy, but to burn down and allow regeneration for anything in its path. During fire season, a lot of folks get really upset and nervous and frustrated because fire season comes back to their neighborhood every single year, back to the same forests, and burn the same forest or the forest next to them, neighboring forests. And a lot of times humans, because they've built homes and they've built businesses and they've built all these structures on certain parts of the earth, they get frustrated because the fire comes, but they're not recognizing or living in alignment with the natural cycle of regeneration, that the fire is actually coming to do the job of the earth. This is the cleansing season. It usually happens in Virgo season. It's time for us to come in and cleanse last year's energy to provide a breakdown of immortal aspects of life that are needed for regeneration for the next year. There's nothing off that's going on in Earth, including the regular yearly fires. So alchemical or laboratory alchemy is based on using fire to burn everything down and find out what survives the fire. That which survives the fire is the truth from the alchemical scientist's perspective. And I'm going to say at this point in my life and living and growing as an alchemist, that it is the truth. If you can survive the fiery, most challenging, most passionate experiences of life, whatever survives that, is solid. That is the parts of you that can take the heat. They say if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen, because the fire is going to show the truth of your personhood, of your energy, of your foundation. So we take the lavender and we are going to do the first extraction process. We're going to extract the oils out of the lavender. We know that, well, you might not know, but lavender is a very, very heavy essential or oil-based plant. The smell of lavender is the oils of the plant. And the essential oils actually work in plants as our immune system. They are the literal protective barrier of the plant. When bugs smell those essential oils, they're deterred away, they fly away. When overgrazers, animals that like to graze those plants and eat those plants, smell those oils, they turn away. They're too strong and pungent and actually create an aversion for pests and pathogens and even viruses. So the first portion of breaking this lavender plant down is we want to extract out the oils, and we're going to do this through distillation. I'm going to show you a little picture of my laboratory distillation here. This here that you're looking at is a laboratory distillation setup. This is a mock setup of the circle of life or of the cycle of water. Here at the bottom, you see this large mantle. This is a heating mantle. This is the fire. This represents the earth or the fire. This mantle actually warms up and heats the water that you see sitting in the glass flask here. The lavender is actually in the glass flask and with water, and that heat from the mantle is going to heat that water up with the plant matter, and through distillation of steam, separate out the water that we've added into the plant from the essential oil. And so we're going to actually walk through this this process together through this laboratory setup, but I want you to get an idea of what it looks like and what we're extracting out from this process. So once the essential oils have been removed or have been separated from the plant and from the water through distillation, we allow that plant matter, we separate off the oil, we take the oil off the water. That leftover water is actually what we know as like rose water. Rose water is actually a byproduct of creating essential oils, because what we basically just did was remove the essential oil off of the plant and separated it out of the plant. So all those amazing essential oils that you're using right now today to heal your mind, your body, your soul, your gut, so many things that essential oils can do are actually a part of the alchemical laboratory process of breaking plants down and finding what immortal aspects survive the fire. Oil is the first thing, and that oil, like I said, is very similar to the immune system of the plant, is removed off. The leftover water is a distillate. It's going to have the smell and the fragrance of the oil, but it's not as potent as the oil. All right, after the oil has been removed out, then the next thing we're going to do is get into the fermentation process. And this is going to be the second immortal aspect of life, or the second immortal aspect in alchemy and laboratory alchemy, is fermentation. And so once you have extracted that oil off of the plant, now you have the oil sitting, or the plant matter sitting in water. Most of the oils have been removed. So you have plant, the physical body of the plant, plus all of the other stuff in the plant that was not removed through the distillation, through the steam distillation. Only the oils and the water was removed at that point. You have the rest of the plant sitting there. So if you take that plant sitting in that water, in that flask, and allow that to sit to the side with no contact with air for a matter of weeks, maybe 4 to even 12 weeks, you are going to have a fermentation process take place. And we know about fermenting. If you haven't fermented yet, you definitely will be fermenting in this class. It is going to be an assignment or an activity that we do together today, or not today, but in class in the future. But fermenting comes when starches and sugars in plant bodies sit in water and co-create the right bacteria that start to break those plants down and release alcohols as a part of the process. And so fermenting is going to be the natural second step in creating, or in reducing the plant down through the fire, because the oil has now been removed. And before we're actually going to take that plant product and burn it down, we're going to let it sit so that it can be reduced even more by the waters, which then will, like I said, produce the actual alcohol, which is going to balance the menstruum out. We talked about this in Scorpio season. What is the primary way that decomposition takes place? It's going to take place in water, because that's what we know, life needs water. So the decomposition of life is going to take place in water, like Scorpio season. And it's also going to take place with bacteria and mold and pathogens. Viral, or we'll say bacteria, are going to come in and help break down the actual physical bits. And so this is a part of the fire, right? We have the fire of the bacteria coming in, breaking the plant parts down, expelling an alcohol, and we have either a ferment or an alcohol created. And ferment, or when I say ferment, I mean like a vinegar. So we either have a vinegar or an alcohol created after that. That is going to be one of the most stable menstruums that we can use in plant medicine. That alcohol or vinegar will continue to extract life and hold life into its body, and it is shelf stable forever. Alcohols and vinegars do not go bad. They might not be always as potent, but they don't go bad, just like oils don't go bad either. They can become rancid and overused, but with enough time, oils can be regenerated and they don't die, they don't disappear. The third is going to be what we do now after we've created our ferment. So we now have our fermented, let's say apple cider vinegar. Let's say we were using apples. And, oh, we were using lavender. Sorry, let me stick to lavender. So we have our lavender. The lavender has fermented and gotten all bubbly, and all of the right gases and bacteria have been created and killed and balanced out. And we now have this very stable liquid, and actually with lavender, it would probably be more of an alcohol. I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, we're actually going to do it ourselves, and we'll figure out. It's going to be more of an alcohol. I don't think it turns into like a vinegar. Now we have this plant matter sitting in this water, and it's all fermented. We want to actually now strain that ferment out, because that ferment is a cleanser. Vinegars and alcohols are the ultimate cleansers of life. And during decomposition, because of those pathogens or the bacteria that are going to come in and do the work of biting down and digesting down the physical life, just like Sagittarius, we then need some type of a fire to come and burn up that life, because if the bacteria get out of control, life becomes unstable. So alcohols and ferments or vinegars are the ultimate cleansers, and actually come and cleanse that bacterial, colony that was created to do the decomposition. Then what you're left over with is just the plant material, right? So we strain the plant material out. We have our vinegar, we have our oil and our vinegar. Now we have just the plant material, and we're talking about fire here. So once we dry that plant material, we are actually going to burn it down through calcination. Calcination was one of the different ways we can make plant medicine that I mentioned on the previous board write-up. We are going to burn that plant matter down all the way to its ash. And actually, through quite a complicated process of washing the ash, we are left over with the salts or the minerals of the plant, the actual physical structure of the plant that will not be burned. If you've ever touched ash, I tend to do this in classes with folks. I'll bring a sage stick, and let's see if I have my lighter around here. I do. Awesome. Thank you. And I'll light my sage stick on fire, because a lot of us have used sage, and we know about this plant, and we know that it's going to produce a ton of ash as it burns down. But what I'll do is I'll go to all my students, and I'll light my sage stick, and I'll let some ash be produced. I know that it seems that ash is almost insignificant, that you can just blow it away and it will disappear. But in reality, one of the primary reasons that so many spiritual faiths use ash as a sacred part of their practice is because ash includes the minerals and the physical parts of the body, of life, of the plant in it that will not be destroyed. These are known as the minerals and the salts. So if you take the ash of this sage stick and you rub it onto your body or rub it into your hand, you'll actually feel, I didn't really get much salt here at all, but you actually feel a grit. Ash is not just ash. There is a foundation, an underlining foundation to ash that is gritty, and it's actually little bitty pieces of material that we know as minerals. These are the salts of life. And actually, these are also called the salts. In alchemy, they call the minerals the salts. They call the alcohol the spirit or spirits, and they call the oil the sulfur. This is also known as the soul of the plant. This is known as the spirit of the plant, and this is known as the body of the plant, or any being. It's not just plants. You can actually do alchemy on any living, on all of life, including the earth. But this is a really, really complex and detailed study that I'm just dipping into right now. We'll talk more about this as we get into working with plants one-on-one. But these are the three immortal aspects of life, and these are the three most potent medicines, plant medicines that you can have access to. The essential oils, they will protect your body just like they protect the plants. They will boost your immune system. They will kill viruses. They will stop bacterial spreads. They will support you through the seasonal changes of life. The alcohols, they will cleanse anything. They will preserve anything. They will cleanse, cuts, wounds, internal cleansing, all of it. Also a great way to store essential oils and minerals is through that very shelf-stable preserved alcohol. And the third are minerals. Guys, The majority of us in our Western world are starving to death because we are not getting enough minerals. We're eating food that is minerally depleted. There are no minerals in the food. Primarily, this is coming because the earth itself is so low in minerals. Our plants are actually not growing up with the things that they need to grow big and strong. A lot of those minerals we're bringing in as a chemical additive. But it's the actual minerals that our body uses to build the cells that we are. Cellular regeneration needs to have physical structure come in and make the cellular walls, and those things are made by minerals. Minerals tend to be found in high concentration in color, smell, and flavor. So plants that have really strong color, really potent smell, or really strong flavors tend to be, are very concentrated in minerals. It's the minerals that are making that smell, that color, or even the taste as well. And many other things with the smell and the taste. Oils also. But minerals being the third things. And if you only went going forward, used essential oils, alcohols, or ferments, and minerals to heal your body, you'd be like aligned with the highest level energy healing available on earth. So we'll get more into this later, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you an introduction to plant medicine from this perspective, because it's not all about the whole of everything. I used to be very stuck on, I only want to look at things from the whole perspective and the holistic perspective. And while that really is important, and we want to think about life in terms of us living in alignment with the whole way things working, we also have to know that the opposite of that, the dualistic opposite of the whole, is reduced down into individual bits and pieces as well. And it is actually the whole as well as the reduced that is the whole, is the entire experience of life. And we have to actually know both of them to be working, practicing herbalists and to be able to make effective plant medicine. All right, guys, so how do plants heal? Why do they heal? That's pretty much been the conversation of today's class. It's through communication. It is through communication of these immortal aspects of the plant, their ability to communicate with our body, because we're all made of the same things. We're all made of the same elements. We're all made underneath the same sun. We're all made underneath the same seasons. We all eat the same foods, or animals that grow, that eat the same foods from the earth. We're all doing the same thing here that we call life. And the reason that plants work with our bodies, and the reason plants heal our bodies, and the reason plants nourish us and cleanse us and we can use to build everything, is because we are literally made of all of the exact same materials. When we come to, or we start thinking about synthetic medicine, first off, all synthetic medicines are made from plants. Okay, there's no medicine that we've ever created that has not come from nature. If not plants, some type of bacteria or something that nature is doing already. We found the healing in nature and then we duplicated it in the laboratory. So synthetic medicine is from plant medicine. It is really the same thing. The challenge with synthetics is that it has been altered, reduced down, right, and altered into the laboratory, where instead of using the whole plant to heal, they're using just one aspect of the plant. And not these immortal aspects. These are the more natural aspects that stay in the whole preparation or in alchemy medicine. But in synthetic, or in Western medicine, or in the pharmaceutical industry, they're taking aspects of the plant and separating them out in unstable ways, or in less stable ways, I should say. And because of this, those individual aspects are no longer attached to the electrical pulse of life. They cannot communicate with our body. That's the main issue with synthetics, is they have been disconnected and removed from the electrical impulse and are no longer a part of the sensory experience. So when we intake synthetics, they do a really good job of covering up the symptoms of the issue, or of the illness, or of the virus, because they can come in there and literally block off sensories. They don't communicate with our sensory system, so they can come in and get in the way of the sensory system and block our reception of what's actually happening, block the pain receptors, block those things. But they don't actually heal them because they're not alive. They don't have the electrical energy or of the earth within them. All of that has been extracted out, and maybe even turned into something that's not even in alignment with nature at all anymore. Again, always came from that, so that's the foundation. But this is really the big difference between plant medicine and synthetic medicine, is that plant medicine can communicate with our cells. When we intake essential oils into our body or smell essential oils through our olfactory system, we are taking in living electric portions or parts of the plant or whatever it is, even each other. We all have our own smells as well, our own oil. We're taking that in, and those oils are able to instantly link up with our cells, communicate, and provide what they have to our cells to live and thrive. When we intake synthetics, we are intaking something that does not have this. It's basically like this. There's no fit. And so healing does not take place, only blocking of the symptoms. In order to truly heal our bodies, we must find ourselves back in alignment with nature, with the natural cycles of life, and living in alignment with regeneration of energy. Because that's what the plants are doing. They are regenerating this energy through their body 24/7, 365. When we step in and bring that energy into our bodies, we are literally inviting their ability to thrive and survive in this environment into our own bodies. And it is the gift of the earth. It is a gift of plants. It is a gift of God and all creators and anything that you would recognize as what has put us here. This is the gift of existence to us, is to have everything we need right here on the earth growing for us in abundance. Scarcity is not the truth of nature. This is growing in abundance and is free for all of us to access. Herbalism, plant medicine, plant-based living, the language of the stars and of the sky, alchemy, all of this stuff is available to all of us. It isn't something that only some people have access to or only some people, can use. This is the birthright of the people and the beings of the earth. And it's all based in communication. And that's why plants heal. And that was the foundation of today's class. I wanted to get you guys into the mentality of seeing how the elements influence the seasons, which influence the life on earth, which influence the ways that they communicate and interact together and create everything that we're doing here today. So I look really forward to making plant medicine with you guys, digging into more of why these things work, how I use them, what remedies and recipes I use, but that's going to be further in the class when we are working more on application. Until then, I'll see you next class. Our next class is going to be a little bit more foundations of the zodiac. We're going to talk about houses, planets, and some more things. But until next time, y'all, that is it. I will see you soon. Peace.